Hello children, welcome to aimsindia's online classes. This is biology session. You are watching biodiversity and conservation part 1. What is biodiversity? In your regular class you have studied about the biodiversity and conservation, some important concepts. The biodiversity, it refers to the variety and variability of living organisms on the planet, as the variety of life forms, gene pools, and habitats found in an area. Okay. Then what is conservation? As mentioned earlier, the problem of conservation has arisen because mankind is using the world's natural resources in greater quantity than ever before. As the world's population grows and as more people live at a higher standard, the greater demand for resources. It is for this reason that the natural resources must be conserved. There will be enough resource available for the future generations, isn't it? It must be clearly understood that conservation does not mean that we have to stop the use of these resources completely. It means that we have to use the resources wisely and judiciously. Okay? Usage of resources. What is conservation? It is the wise and judicious usage of resources. The overusage or wastage of resources would lead to imbalance among the various components of nature. Okay? There are two main aims of conservation. First one is preserve the quality of environment, that is, maintain a pollution-free environment. And the second aim is to ensure continuous yield of useful plants, animals, and materials for future generations. These are the two main aims of conservation. Okay, children, let us know more about the biodiversity and conservation. Okay, let us proceed. All the variety of organisms makes biodiversity. The term biodiversity was first coined by E.O. Wilson. E.O. Wilson. Okay, the term biodiversity was popularized by a sociobiologist. What is E.O. means? Edward Osborne Wilson. Edward Osborne Wilson, to describe the combined diversity at all the levels of biological organization in the year 1985. All the species, biodiversity includes all the species on the earth, that is different plants, animals, organisms and their genes, water ecosystems, terrestrial ecosystem, marine ecosystem, etc. It is important for our existence as it provides the fundamental building blocks for several goods and services and provides a healthy environment to lead happy and healthy life. Okay, so some definitions, there are many definitions are there. The biodiversity defined as the variety and variability of living organisms and the ecological complexes in which they exist. Okay, in other words, The term biodiversity refers to the occurrence of several ecosystems, different organisms, their species, along with the entire range of variants adapted to different environment, different climate, etc., along with their processes and interactions. Okay, there are interactions. So we can say biodiversity is a complex term. Okay, thus the biodiversity consisting of genetic variability and diversity of life forms such as microbes. Okay, it not only includes plant and animals, it includes microbes, plants, animals, etc., living in the wide range of ecosystem. First, genetic diversity. What is genetic diversity? The genetic diversity includes variation in the type and the number of genes and the chromosomes present in different species. Okay, the magnitude of diversity increases with the increase in environmental parameter and size of habitat and the size of a habitat. Genetic diversity, its importance. Genetic diversity helps in evolution or speciation of new species, means formation of new species. Genetic diversity is important for productivity and development of agriculture. It is important in adaptation to change as per the change in surroundings. Okay, so once again, the genetic diversity within the species creates different subspecies, variety, breed, forms, etc. The India has more than 50,000 genetically different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mango. Do you agree? Yes, it's a fact. Genetic diversity. So India has more than 50,000 genetically different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mango. Okay, genetic diversity is important for the productivity and development of agriculture. Species diversity. Okay, the source of biodiversity is of three types. One is genetic diversity, second one is species diversity, and third one is ecological diversity. Okay, the second one, species diversity. It describes the richness and variety of species in a particular region. It is defined as the number of species per unit area. Okay, what is species diversity? The number of species per unit area. The richness of species explains the extent of biodiversity and provides several methods for comparing different sites. The richness of species depends on the conditions of climate. Okay, climatic variations, climatic conditions. Okay, so once again, what is species diversity? It is the measure of the variety of species and their relative abundance present within a region. Okay, in short, I am telling. It describes the richness and variety of species in a particular region. Okay, so it is the measure of variety of species and their relative abundance present within a region. For example, okay, with example, if you study, you will understand better. For example, Western Ghats has more amphibian species than Eastern Ghats. Okay, Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats are there, but Western Ghats has more amphibian species, frog-like, okay, than Eastern Ghats. So that is species diversity. Okay, now ecosystem diversity or ecological diversity. It describes the interaction and assemblage of species living together and the physical environment of that area. Okay. So ecosystem diversity relates to biotic communities, habitats, and ecological processes in the entire biosphere. This diversity is also referred as landscape biodiversity because it consists of size and placement of different ecosystems. Okay. So ecological diversity to the diversity of species. It is also related to the genetic diversity at ecological level. Okay, due to the presence of more variety of ecosystems and habitats. For example, rainforest, desert, wetlands, mangroves, coral reefs, and alpine meadows, etc. So India has a greater ecological diversity than Scandinavian countries. So we have great ecological diversity. Okay. Now come to the patterns of biodiversity. So therefore, the tropics arbor has more species as compared to the polar or temperate areas. Okay. Geographical distribution, you can say. Colombia, located near equator, it has around 1400 species, while New York at 41 degrees north has only 105 species, and Greenland at 71 degrees north has 56 species. You can see the diversity. The species and area relationship. Every area has different species of plants and animals, flora and fauna. It is important to note that the relation between species richness with the area of wide variety of taxa, that is birds, plants, freshwater fishes and bats, etc. The importance of biodiversity. Biodiversity is so important because it helps in preventing the extinction of species. Okay, nowadays the human activities leads to extinction of several species. It may be a plant or animal. So by means of studying this biodiversity, we can prevent the we could be able to know the reason for extinction, so that we can prevent the extinction of a species. Biodiversity is important because it helps in preventing the extinction of species. It allows the organisms to adapt according to the environment and provide wider range of material and food for survival. It is the biodiversity that provides vast genetic pools that helps in preserving existence of life on the earth. Okay. So this latitude gradient, species area relationships. So these are nothing but the patterns of biodiversity. Plants and animals are more diverse in areas which suit them best for their survival. So biodiversity is more in such areas than others. Okay. The different patterns of biodiversity are described. For example, latitude gradient. The species diversity decrease as we move away from the equator towards the poles. It means biodiversity is more at lower latitude, that is equator, than the higher latitude, that is near the poles. Okay. Tropics. So here tropics means latitudinal range of 23.5 degrees north to 23.5 degrees south. Okay, it has the tropics harbor more species than the temperate or polar areas. For example, Colombia, located near the equator, has 1400 species. Okay, 1400 species of birds. 1400 species of birds. Whereas New York, for example, if you take New York at 41 degrees north has 105 species of birds, while Greenland 71 degrees north has only 56 species of birds. Amazonian rainforest is such a in South America has the greatest biodiversity on the earth, with more than 40,000 species of plants and 3,000 species of fishes, 1,300 species of birds, 427 species of mammals and amphibians, 378 species of reptiles, and more than 1,25,000 species of invertebrates. That is the latitude gradient, species diversity. The species area relationships we have discussed. Alexander von Humboldt, a German naturalist and geographer, observed that within region species richness had increased with the increasing explored area, but only up to a limit. Okay. Now the importance of the species diversity to the ecosystem, it is very important. So many scientists, ecologists believe that the communities with more species tend to be more stable than those with less species. It was confirmed by David Tillman. Okay, David Tillman. So for example, rainforest comprises of around 50% of entire world. Animal and plant species and biodiversity of these forests helps in regulating the weather pattern of earth. Biodiversity prevents against erosion and drought and regulates the chemical composition of the soil also. That's why it is very important to know the biodiversity. Okay. Biodiversity helps in determining the reproductive season of different animals as well as the growth cycles of plants. Biodiversity helps in maintaining equilibrium in the environment, ecological equilibrium, and also defines the manner in which different organisms interact with each other. It helps in maintaining the balance by recycling and storage of nutrients, stabilizing climate, farming and protecting soil, combating pollution, and thereby maintaining ecological balance. Okay. It is threatened, biodiversity is threatened by climatic change, over exploitation of natural resources, habitat loss, and pollution. Loss of biodiversity weakens the connection between various species in the ecosystem. Yes, loss of biodiversity weakens the connection between the various species in the ecosystem, ecological imbalance. Okay, so it is very important. So international studies, loss of biodiversity. So biodiversity, the stable community shows some characteristic features. Stable community shall not show too much of variations in year to year productivity. The stable community must be either resistant or resilient to seasonal disturbances. and the resistant community must be, the stable community must be resistant to invasion by alien species. Okay. So effects of loss of biodiversity, if you take finally, decline of plant production, lower resistance and resilience to environment, perturbations such as drought and increased variability in ecosystem processes such as plant productivity and water use, even diseases. Okay, the main cause of loss of biodiversity, the American biologist by name Jared Diamond coined the phrase the evil quartet to describe the 4 human induced causes of biodiversity loss. The first one and major one and important one is habitat destruction or habitat degradation and fragmentation. The second one is over exploitation. Third one is alien species invasions, and the third and the fourth and last one is extinction, co-extinction. Okay, biodiversity and food. Around 8% of the food supplies and food. Around 8% of the food supplies come from 20 kinds of plants, but we use around 40,000 species for clothing, food and shelter. It is the biodiversity that provides us the variety of food. Biodiversity and human health. Biodiversity plays a very important role and integral in the discovery of drugs and medical resources. The medicines from the nature accounts for 80% of the usage in the entire population of the world. Biodiversity and industry. Biodiversity helps in providing several industrial materials as well. It includes fibers, dyes, rubber, oil, food, paper and timber. Biodiversity and culture. Biodiversity boosts recreational activities like trekking, bird watching, fishing, etc. It inspires musicians, painters, poets as well. Okay, biodiversity, it's a beauty. Role of biodiversity. The biodiversity helps in ecological processes, have functional traits, and creates habitats for insects in the species richness and catalysis biotic interactions. Reasons of loss of biodiversity. The biodiversity of the earth is in danger and are the most dangerous cause of destruction. According to Hippo, dangerous cause of destruction. Hippo stands for habitat destruction, climate change, invasive species, pollution, human overpopulation and over harvesting. Okay, overpopulation, over harvesting. Habitat destruction is one of the major and very important causes of loss of biodiversity, and this is caused due to the global warming, overpopulation, deforestation and continuous increase in pollution. Okay, hope you understood. Read the book. Thank you for watching our video. Please subscribe our channel and press the bell icon for receiving latest updates.